We'll soon find out. Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. This is the place where we're going to explore all those pieces of the puzzle that will allow us to discover what you're truly hungry for and learn how to satisfy those deepest cravings so you can end the dieting roller coaster once and for all. Let me start by asking you a couple of questions. How do you think self acceptance and curiosity play a role in the weight loss journey? What would you consider is the first key to overcoming feeling powerless to change? Today, we're going to talk about one of the very first lessons I learned in my own weight loss journey. I'm going to share a little bit about the actual defining moment that changed everything for me. I'm at work, working in my cubicle where we all answer phones. The boss yelled at me in front of everyone, and I was afraid to say anything for fear of losing my job. I got ticked off at him. I was angry, and I stuffed food into my mouth so quickly. In fact, I had so much food in my mouth that when the phone rang, I could not answer the phone. I could not even speak. Can you imagine? My coworker, he looked at me, shook his head, and answered the phone for me. It was embarrassing, humiliating. The thing was, I wasn't even hungry. And that was the beginning of my realization that it was not about the food. The sad part was when I got home from work, I found myself standing in front of the pantry looking for something to eat. I mean, really, I felt totally defeated. I walked away from the pantry. I sat down on the couch and I got curious. But what was I doing to myself? I began asking myself some questions, some important questions. Why am I eating like this? Why am I stuffing myself? Why can't I control my intake of food? What was really going on here? What was the real reason I was eating? Because I wasn't even hungry. So I began thinking about my life. And I thought about how often I stuffed my feelings. I thought about all the times I sat on the sideline of life because I didn't have the energy or the fitness to participate in an activity. I thought about all the times I was embarrassed by how I looked and felt about myself, how I shied away from certain activities. My weight held me back in my career and hurt my finances. It negatively impacted my relationships because I never felt good enough. And I realized this is my life. And I'm the one holding myself back. At that moment, I decided to just accept myself right where I was. Now, what do I mean when I say acceptance? Acceptance simply means you make a conscious decision not to fight something that is real or to judge yourself or wind up thinking that life isn't fair and this should not be happening. When I consciously made the decision to accept the situation as it is up to this point, I became better able to stop wishing it hadn't happened. And I faced up to the fact that this is the way I'd handled my life up to this point. I began to get curious and start making judgments. Sorry, that was my alarm. About the situation and about myself. I began to focus on solutions to repair the damage rather than dwelling on the negative emotions. Rather than getting trapped in the web of negative emotions, self defeating beliefs, and internal struggles, I decided to just simply accept it. And I had no idea how powerful a tool acceptance was becoming. Along with curiosity, acceptance began the transformation of my life. Looking at data without emotion allowed me to let go of self judgment. Once I let go of the self judgment, I was able to get curious. In fact, I decided to go on a fact finding, data gathering mission. I needed to obtain answers. And this was the beginning of my internal work. So today I'm going to talk about acceptance and three of the lessons I've learned from acceptance. The first realization or lesson was acceptance empowered me to work towards a better outcome rather than remaining stuck in my negative emotions. I never realized how much energy I wasted spent in dwelling in those negative emotions. I noticed over time my negative emotions went very quickly from the incident to me beating myself up. It allowed me to actually ignore that incident over there because I put my focus on me and how horrible I was for overeating rather than think about the incident and what actually needed to be done about it. It enabled me to stay stuck in the thinking rather than taking corrective action. I realized that dwelling on the negative emotions wasn't helpful at all. I could have thought, why is he upset? Did I need to do something different? Is he using me as a scapegoat because he's angry at his wife? Does he have low blood sugar? How should I know? It led to an internal turmoil because I don't know the answer. And worse, I made it mean something bad about me for overeating. And I certainly wasn't going to go back and ask him because if it didn't go well, what was I going to do? Oh, I was going to go home in front of the pantry and look for something to eat again tonight. And I'm like, no, thank you. Not happening. So by starting to ask these questions, to coming to accept these negative emotions, I created some space for self introspection, self awareness, and I began to think about what were better courses of action to take. So, obviously, approaching him would be good, but I did not do it the next day. This is something that evolved over time. But I was able to think more about these types of events differently, to begin to think about what actions I could take that would help me rather than hinder me, like stuffing down how I was feeling. So, the second lesson I learned was learning to become more resilient and tolerant. When I stuffed my negative emotions, I'd become full of self hatred because it was a totally unworkable solution, the eating. So it led to frustration with myself, bitterness, upset with myself because it never led to a solution. So, resilience, what is it? The capacity to bounce back from adversity and thrive despite adverse situations. We acknowledge existence without being defeated about it. Acceptance enables us to assess the situation objectively, learn from it, and find ways to adapt and overcome. Tolerance. By recognizing that life is filled with uncertainties, imperfections, mine and theirs, we become more understanding of ourselves and others. We learn to let go of the need of perfection. We learn to allow room for growth and mistakes. This third lesson, huge lesson, liberated me from the never-ending cycle of life isn't fair. It shouldn't have happened. This allowed me to progress from thinking about the problem, how unfair it was, how mean he was, how awful I was for stuffing down these feelings, to being much more able to turn to a potential solution, decide on a course of action, start taking corrective action. I noticed over time when I began to let go of the it shouldn't have happened, life is unfair, I became more open to new perspectives and possibilities. I'm going to talk more about that in another post. Instead of dwelling on the past, I could now begin to concentrate on the present and the future. By acknowledging the reality of what had occurred, I could more objectively evaluate the situation and strategize for more constructive, positive outcomes. So let me summarize a bit. Acceptance can be a transformative force that empowers us to embrace reality much more fully. It allows us to accept our emotions, circumstances, imperfections of life. We unlock our potential for growth, change. Acceptance allows me to work toward a better outcome, rise above challenging situations, focus on finding solutions, taking meaningful actions. It allows me to go from thinking to acting. So until next time, make it a joyful day when we discover what you're truly hungry for and learn to satisfy those deepest cravings, piece of the puzzle by piece of the puzzle. Make it a joyful week. Talk to you next time. So, why is it not going off? End broadcast.